During the Imperial era, the strongest exorcist reflects on how he has been summoning monsters and making them his servants since childhood while becoming the strongest of all. However, one terrible night, he is beaten so badly that he believes it might be the end of history's strongest exorcist. His students are taken hostage, and he is forced to stand against the Imperial court because they believe he has sought too much power. It turns out that the court has sent someone to kill him, but before dying, the exorcist casts a special ability on himself. Soon after, he is reborn as Sika in a world where humans and demons live together. He is born into the Lamperouge clan, a powerful family of mages, and becomes the third son despite having no magic of his own. The next day, Sika tests his exorcist powers on a few leaves and transforms them into different animals. When his older brother arrives to bully him, Sika hides the fact that he can use these powers. Instead, he secretly uses a group of crows to attack him, leaving his brother Glai injured. Sika then decides to hide his exorcist powers to make it easier to gather information about this world. Soon, Sika turns 7 years old, but since he is the child of a mistress, there was no celebration and most people just left him alone. Later, Yifa brings his clothes that she found in the bushes. At that moment, Glai shows up and calls Yifa a slave, asking why she is wasting her time instead of working. Glai makes fun of Sika, saying life is easy for him since he doesn't have any magic, nor he has to spend time studying. Glai then flexes that he is going to a magic academy, and after that he will head to Imperial Lodanea Magic Academy. Just then Seika's father shows up and takes Glai since it's time for him to learn some magic. However, this time Seika also wants to see, so he joins them as well. Glai and his other brother then show off their magic skills perfectly, and Glai then asks Sika if he wants to give it a try as well since their father is watching. Sika decides to try it as well, and using his exorcist powers, he shoots a blue fireball that surprises everyone. Glai wonders if his magic was so strong that some of it remained in the wand, and his father tells him that there are examples of people who were able to use magic without being born with it. Sika then tells his father that he wants to learn magic, but he refuses, saying there are no stories of mages born without magic becoming great successes. Since Sika is getting a new tutor, he decides to start by learning more about the world around him. 4 years later, Sika thinks about his past life and remembers how he defeated and sealed many powerful Ayakashi before forcing them to fight for him in battle. Wanting to test his powers in this world, he summons an Ayakashi named Kuida Gitsune for the first time since coming here. Right after that, a girl appears in front of him and quickly hugs him because she misses him a lot. The girl turns out to be Yuki, who now looks younger because of Seika's spiritual powers. When Yuki asks if he has any request for her, Sika explains that he is only trying out his summoning and cannot let anyone else see her. After hearing this, Yuki transforms into another creature and hides herself inside Seika's hair. The next day, Sika sees Glai shouting at Yifa after she accidentally spills water all over his clothes. To make things worse, Glai behaves in a weird and uncomfortable way and tells her to come to his room that night, so Sika steps in to stop him. Glai gets angry and tries to punch Sika, but Sika easily blocks the attack. When Glai realizes his punch has no effect, he becomes frustrated and walks away in anger. After that, Yifa brings Sika to an injured baby monster whose mother was attacked by the crows earlier. Yifa wants to save the baby, and Sika agrees to try helping it. Sika tells Yifa to look around carefully and then uses his exorcism techniques to heal the monster. The baby monster quickly becomes completely healthy again, which surprises Yifa. Yifa then tells Sika that he is also special, just like his brothers. But Sika replies that he already knows she can see spirit animals because he has noticed it about her. Yifa then explains that her mother told her not to tell anyone before she died, but says that these are actually elementals, and she also found Sika's lost jacket because of them. When Yifa uses her powers again, she notices that the elementals do not gather around Sika, as if they are avoiding him. Sika thinks that in his previous life, Bakagitsune foxes were able to control Hitodama spirits and spent a lot of time studying and researching, but he was never able to do the same. He then asks Yifa if she has any interest in learning how to use magic, but she explains that she does not have enough magical power to cast spells. To test her, Sika creates a fireball in the air and tells her to make it disappear. Yifa concentrates as hard as she can, and the fireball vanishes exactly the way she wants it to. After seeing this, Sika decides to train her so she can become skilled at using magic, and the years pass by quickly. One day, Sika sits at the table with his family and notices that, unlike his brothers, he does not receive a special birthday feast or any presents. Later, his stepbrothers approach him and say they want to train him because he cannot become the heir, as his mother is only a mistress. At that moment, a maid rushes in and informs everyone that a large monster has appeared near the city. Soon after, the monster reaches the mansion grounds, and when it tries to attack one of the maids, Ifa uses her fire magic to strike the creature. After that, Seika distracts the monster towards him, and once it starts chasing after him, Seika jumps in the air and uses his magic ability to shoot at the monster that instantly breaks it down. Seeing that, everyone gets surprised, wondering how Seika managed to defeat such a powerful monster with just a single attack. That evening, Seika's father decides to host a celebratory victory dinner, preparing fancy dishes to honor Seika for accomplishing something remarkable that day. Seika's brother Luft also praises him, saying that he was very brave during the incident, while Glai becomes extremely annoyed and angry that Seika is the one receiving all the attention. Seika's father then starts wondering how Seika was able to know that the Elder Newt monster was weak against fire. Seika explains that he had read it in a book before, where it mentioned that fire magic could be used to drive the creature away. Hearing this, his father says that he would like to reward him for his efforts. Seika then makes a request, explaining that since he has been spending a long time studying magic and training as best as he can on his own, he now wants to enroll in Lodanea Magic Academy. After thinking about it for a while, Seika's father agrees, but tells him that he must pass the entrance test on his own. Then Seika brings up another request, asking if Ifa could be allowed to accompany him as his servant. However, his father immediately refuses, saying that Ifa has no magical talent. Seika insists that he will prove her abilities to him. Seika then tells Ifa that if she wants to go with him, then she has to shout Flamenaut and create the biggest fireball she can outside the window. After that, Ifa does exactly what Seika told her, and she manages to create a fireball that surprises everyone. Before Seika's father could allow her, Glai interferes and says that the Lamprogue clan has never allowed two brothers to follow the same path. Seika's father then decides to stop Glai from going to the academy and tells him that he is going to join the army. Hearing that, Glai gets mad and demands to know the explanation behind all this, and his dad says that all he has ever seen him do is play with his sword and run around with a bad crowd in town. Out of frustration, Glai challenges Seika to a duel, saying if he loses, then he has to leave the mansion forever, and Seika agrees. Seika's father then says that the duel will take place at noon tomorrow, and there will be no using real swords or any magic mid-rank or higher. That night, Luft shows up at Seika's room to give him a present for his birthday and apologizes to him for not being kinder at times. Suddenly, Seika senses some magic coming from his window, and when he goes to check, he sees Glai standing outside telling him to duel right now. Glai then says that they will fight with no rules, and the battle will continue until one of them surrenders or cannot fight anymore. He also adds that if he loses, Seika must go tell their father that he is giving up his claim tomorrow. At that moment, Glai uses his magic to attack Seika, but to his surprise, Seika is completely unharmed. Glai keeps attacking him with different magic techniques, but Seika blocks everything using a barrier, so none of it works. With just one move, Seika freezes Glai in place and tells him to report to their father the next day that he is forfeiting. After Glai collapses unconscious on the ground, Yuki asks Seika whether it is really safe to leave him alive after witnessing Seika's true power. Seika responds that he had already promised Luft that he would not do anything harmful to Glai, so he intends to keep that promise. It is then revealed that everything had actually been part of Seika's plan from the very beginning, as he was the one who summoned one of his Ayakashi monsters in order to force the Elder Newt out of its nest. Seika then explains to Yuki that in his previous life, he had been killed by those seemingly weak humans, and because of that, in this life, he wants to become one of the people who belong to that group of weak humans instead. The following day, Seika and Ifa set out toward the academy, and during their journey, Seika reflects that Ifa's next objective is to learn how to consistently use elemental magic. Sometime later, Seika begins experiencing discomfort because he cannot handle riding carriages well, a problem he also had in his past life. Meanwhile, Seika's father contemplates the fact that Seika is not actually his biological child, but rather his nephew, the son of his brother Gilbert, who went missing in demon territory. Seika's uncle feels bad for what he did to Glai, but it was too dangerous to send Seika to the army, as he thinks that Seika could become a hero who protects the nation or a demon king that destroys the people, depending on his environment. On the other hand, Seika and Ifa finally arrive at the academy, and Seika tells Ifa that he got her the room next to his. However, Ifa gathers the courage to ask Seika if she could come to his place that night. Seika initially assumes that she is simply inviting him to have dinner together, but it is later revealed that she actually meant she wanted his love. After Ifa leaves, Yuki tells Seika that Ifa is planning to take advantage of her position as a slave in order to get him to sleep with her. Seika becomes confused and wonders how Yuki, who is an Ayakashi, understands so much about human emotions and relationships. After getting ready, Seika and Ifa arrive at the exam location, where many people are surprised to see that a famous Lamprogues has appeared there. a worker instructs them to place their hands on a circular magic device, explaining that it measures their power and will glow white if they have aptitude for all 4 elements. Seika then realizes that this world has its own elemental system, including fire, water, wind, and earth. When Aoife places her hand on the device, it glows white, confirming her talent. But when Seika tries, it does not glow at all, causing others to suspect that he used his connections to enter the academy. At that moment, a red-haired girl suddenly appears, and she possesses overwhelming power with all 4 elements. It is then revealed that she is someone Seika recognizes from his previous life. Not only that, it's the same person who was pressured by the Imperial Court into killing him. After that, Seika and Aoife take the written exam, and Aoife cannot stop worrying because she feels that she has made a lot of mistakes throughout the test. Once the written portion ends, it is time for the practical exam, where all the applicants have to aim at a row of targets and unleash their magic. From left to right, the targets represent the fire, earth, water, wind, light, and dark elements. The participants are free to use whatever magic they want, but points are awarded for each target they successfully hit, so everyone tries to strike as many as possible. During the practical test, Aoife puts on such an impressive display that everyone watching is left completely shocked by her power. When Seika's turn arrives, he manages to outperform everyone else as well by completely destroying the target with his exorcism techniques. Later that evening, a girl approaches the instructor and asks how the examination went. The instructor explains that the lamprogue boy and his servant absolutely dominate the test. The girl then asks if he has been able to determine the extent of their magical abilities, but the instructor says that he cannot properly measure them. He explains that Aoife possesses so little magical power that she should barely be able to use magic at all, while Seika appears to have absolutely none. He also mentions that the same redhead girl from before, who was even more powerful than them, was also there today, whose name turns out to be Amu. The instructor points out that no student before her has ever managed to completely destroy every target in all the elemental tests the way Amu did. Hearing this, the girl begins to think that Amu might actually be the legendary hero said to be born in the human lands. The next day, Seika and Aoife head to the notice board to check the examination results, both hoping that they successfully pass. It turns out that Seika is accepted and ranked in 3rd place, but to his surprise, the person ranked above him is Aoife. However, the student who claims the top position is none other than Amu, causing Seika to believe that he has finally found the person he had been searching for. Several days after the results are announced, an official invitation arrives at the inn where they are staying. Soon afterward, Seika and Aoife officially enroll in the academy, and the time finally comes for the entrance ceremony. As Aoife puts on her academy uniform, she asks Seika whether he thinks her skirt is too short, and he quietly agrees with her opinion. Aoife is also disappointed by the fact that she will no longer be able to serve him as before, since female students are not permitted to stay in the boys' dormitory. On their way, they find so many dark elements all because of a magical circle that is drawn on the ground. Seika has a bad feeling about it but can't do anything since it belongs to the school. After that, they arrive at the academy hall where there are tons of dishes served for all the students, and Seika enjoys his time by tasting all of them. Just then, Amu shows up at the stage to give a speech and says that she came here to get stronger to defeat monsters. Just then, the hall door breaks and a bunch of monsters enter the room trying to look for something. The students try to attack them using their powers, but it doesn't work, so Amu shows up and manages to deal with them all alone. Seika tells Aoife to use her magic and run away immediately if she feels that the situation becomes too dangerous. After that, he uses one of his exorcism techniques to quickly travel to the forest where the magic circle is located, believing that it is the source of the monster's appearances. When he arrives, he encounters a powerful monster who confidently tells him that there is no way he can defeat him on his own. The monster then summons a large number of other monsters and orders them to attack, but Seika uses his exorcism powers to wipe them all out with ease. After seeing his forces destroyed, the leader finally introduces himself as Ghoul Gallios and declares that it is time for a direct battle between the two of them. At the beginning of the fight, Gallios performs remarkably well because he is able to see through many of the tricks and techniques Seika tries to use against him. He even manages to land a successful strike and cuts one of Seika's arms. During the battle, Seika asks Gallios what exactly he is searching for, and the monster explains that he has been looking for the hero he spotted earlier that night in the hall. To Seika's surprise, Gallios is actually referring to Amu. The monster immediately launches another attack afterward, but Seika narrowly avoids the deadly blow. Not only does he escape unharmed, but he also uses his abilities to heal the injury on his arm, restoring it before the battle continues. The monster then tells Seika that he has to go deal with Amu before she gets the strongest. But Seika mentions that being strongest is just about numbers, and he knows that very well, as he was also the strongest at some point. Seika then uses his powers in an attempt to drown the monster, but the creature quickly teleports away and appears on the other side before the attack can finish him off. Even so, the battle continues fiercely, and the monster manages to stab Seika. However, Seika instantly heals the wound and strikes back, overwhelming the monster with a series of attacks. As the fight goes on, Seika tries to teach him a lesson by asking whether he has ever stopped to think about what fire truly is or why water can be broken down to create wind. The monster only becomes more irritated by those words and insists that he can still defeat Seika while rendering all of his charms completely useless. In response, Seika activates another exorcism technique and declares that he is ending tonight's banquet by feeding the monster's body to one of his servants. To the monster's shock, Seika summons a dragon that immediately devours him in a single bite. After the monster is killed, the dragon suddenly turns on Seika and attempts to attack him as well because he still does not have full control over it. Seika quickly responds by sealing the dragon away before it can cause any more trouble. Later, when he returns to the hall, Yifa informs him that Amyu has already defeated all of the lesser demons by herself. While this earns Amyu a great deal of praise, it also causes many people around her to become jealous of her talent. Seeing this only strengthens Seika's desire to have someone else become the strongest person in this timeline, as he has no interest in standing at the top himself and instead wants to remain Amyu's friend. A month later, the entire situation with the demons finally calms down, and quite a bit of time passes since Seika first arrives at the academy. Seika's plan stays very simple, which is to become friends with someone powerful so he can gain advantages from that relationship, and he does this to make sure he does not end up facing the same fate he experienced in his previous life. Seika tries his best to approach Amyu, but she coldly tells him not to ever speak to her again. Later, when they enter the academy, a jar filled with demon blood almost drops down on them, but Seika reacts in time and uses his ability to dodge it at the very last second. The instructor quickly appears and asks if they are both alright, then explains that the substance is actually a catalyst he uses for his research. He also adds that it is monster blood mixed with herbs and ores, and he was carrying it to the floor above when it accidentally fell on them. After that, during class, the teacher once again calls on Amyu and Ifa, who are still the students with the highest grades, and asks them for help. The teacher explains that they will be required to go into Laudania Forest and deliver the new student roster as an offering. Seika immediately gets a bad feeling about the task and asks what would happen if one of them refuses to go. In response, the teacher says that if that happens, she will simply assign the student with the third highest grades instead. Seika then takes the initiative and declares that Ifa refuses to go, which causes the entire class to start disliking him even more than before. After that, Seika explains that the teacher should not be ordering a slave to do such work and says that he will go in her place instead. On their way back, Seika apologizes to Ifa and explains that he is doing this for Amyu because as a hero who fought against demons, she has already gained many enemies instead of friends. Ifa briefly assumes that Seika might have a crush on Amyu, but Seika clarifies that he simply wants to be her friend, since very few people possess power at that level, and he finds it interesting rather than romantic. Soon, the day of the ceremony arrives when Seika and Amyu are supposed to go to the forest. On their way, Amyu asks Seika if the slave with massive phone cameras isn't enough for him, that now he wants to have some with his classmates. Just then, they find a magic circle, which is similar to the one Seika saw before. The magic circle then activates and they are teleported to a dark underground place where some monsters try to attack them. Amyu quickly uses her abilities to defeat the monsters, and when the big one tries to attack her, Seika shows off his technique as well. Seeing the situation, the duo figure out that they are trapped in a dungeon. It turns out, Seika is using Shikigami to help him escape as he changed the Shikigami he left in the school into honeybees, and they are going to respond if they are close. After that, more monsters show up and they happen to push Amyu back, which allows Seika to use his powers. Amyu then falls unconscious, and when she wakes up, she finds all the monsters gone and even her wounds are healed, all because of Seika. Amyu once again teases him, saying he must be deeply in love with Ifa, but Seika says that he is the son of a mistress, so he never really belonged at home, and Ifa was the only one who talked nicely with him. Seika then asks Amyu about her family, and Amyu replies that her mother is an important figure in the guild. She goes on to explain that her parents always told her she was strange, since most people usually have something they enjoy more than just going on adventures all the time. She further shares that during one expedition she joined a very large party, but half of the members ended up dying in the mission. Even after that experience, Amyu still wanted to go on another adventure, and because of this behavior, people started calling her a battle-obsessed weirdo. Amyu then says that she came to the academy for two main reasons: to become stronger and to get away from the guild. She once believed that if she became stronger than everyone else, fighting would eventually become boring for her, but she realizes she was wrong because she actually enjoys every moment of battle more than ever. Seika responds by saying that she is not weird, and he explains his own view that all life exists in order to leave behind children who will become the next generation, and that it is important for those children to be able to survive in any environment. He also thinks there must be a reason Amyu is at the academy, so he does not see her as a freak. After that, they continue their journey together, and after defeating a large number of monsters along the way, they finally reach the boss monster's room. When they enter, a massive snake-like beast attacks them, using swords to fight against the two of them. Amyu and Seika work together during the battle, combining their abilities and supporting each other, and they manage to defeat the monster with relative ease because of their strong teamwork. Amyu feels happy afterward and says that they were perfectly synchronized and were able to defeat the first dungeon boss as a team. Seika, on the other hand, simply wants to enjoy the fight and gives her a chance to experience new things through battle as well. After the fight, they find a sword attached to one of the monster's arms, but it has lost its power, so Seika decides to give the sword to Amyu. They then successfully escape from the dungeon. Later, the teachers question them about what happened, and Seika explains everything honestly, but he leaves out both the curse affecting Amyu and his own magic spells. Sometime after that, Seika confronts one of the instructors, who is revealed to be a devil's servant sent to assassinate Amyu using a demon blood curse. Seika then uses his ability to transfer Amyu's curse onto the instructor instead, which results in the instructor dying as a consequence. Later, Seika gives a ring that he found in the dungeon to Yifa, saying it will increase her strength. A year later, Amyu is now friends with Seika and Yifa, and there have been no demon attacks since then. The vice principal then tells Seika and Yifa to come to the principal's office tomorrow evening, and Seika has a bad feeling about all this. The next day, Seika and Yifa are nervous to meet the principal for the first time. When they enter the principal's office, they are surprised to see that the principal is actually a short demi-human who is the leader of the Imperial Magic Academy. The principal then mentions Seika's uncle, and it surprises him even more since he never heard anything about his father having siblings. The principal then tells him that she wants him to enter a mixed disciplines combat tournament being held in the capital with a girl named Mabel Crane. The principal announces that the academy has been given 2 slots for the upcoming tournament, and Mabel is confirmed as the first participant. She then asks Seika whether the second slot belongs to him or to Yifa. Later, Seika informs Amyu about the situation, and she becomes furious that she has not been invited at all. Amyu also questions whether the Magic Academy has ever even participated in this tournament before, and Yifa explains that the rules have changed this year and magic is now allowed. Amyu then claims that she is a better swordsman than anyone there, but when Seika asks her once again if she wants to join, she refuses and says she is no longer interested. After that, Amyu comments that Mabel might have been chosen by some noble family and predicts that she may even forfeit early in the tournament. Just then, Mabel appears and tells Amyu that she is someone who has never experienced real hardship in her life. Mabel continues by mocking her and calling her a spoiled brat who knows nothing about what true fighting really means. Hearing these insults, Amyu becomes extremely angry and immediately borrows swords from 2 nearby fighters so she can challenge Mabel to a duel. Seika is surprised to see that Mabel can actually lift and handle the sword properly, and he tells Yifa that he will step in at the right moment. At the same time, he thinks that this is a good chance to observe Mabel's real strength. The duel begins with Mabel immediately showing off her power as both fighters charge straight at each other without hesitation. In an instant, Mabel defeats Amyu in the match and then mocks her before walking away. Seika quickly realizes that Mabel was using dark magic during the fight, and shortly after, Mabel also insults Seika by calling him a loser and saying that if he does not take things seriously, he should just forfeit now. Sometime later, Seika finds himself riding in a carriage with Mabel as they travel toward the capital. It turns out that Yifa and Amyu are also in the same carriage, with Yifa traveling as Seika's servant while Amyu comes along because she wants to explore the capital. Mabel then comments that she finds it annoying that there are students at the academy who live without any sense of seriousness or hardship. When they finally arrive at the capital, Amyu and Yifa are amazed by the tall buildings surrounding them, but when they look back at the carriage, they notice that Seika is feeling sick from the long journey. After that, they go to the notice board, where Seika sees that if he and Mabel both keep winning, they will eventually face each other in the semi-finals. Seika then decides to head back and tells Yifa and Amyu to explore the city until evening on their own. However, Seika himself wants to investigate why the academy specifically chose to send him instead of Amyu. The next day, it is Seika's first match, and his opponent turns out to be the Mad Dog speedster from the Garl's mercenary band. The opponent boasts that he can kill a mage 10 times before they even finish chanting a spell. When the match begins, the speedster rushes in to attack Seika immediately, but Seika responds with a single move and throws him completely out of the ring, winning the match instantly. Afterwards, Seika thinks that he may have gone too far in the previous match and realizes that he needs to be more careful from now on so he does not attract unnecessary attention. On his way, Yuki asks him how many matches he plans to win in the tournament, and Seika replies that he still has not decided yet and is simply taking it one step at a time. Yuki reflects that while it is good to enjoy the competition and have some fun, it is also a bad idea to stand out too much in a place like this where strong people are watching closely. Later, it is time for another match between Balaam, who is known as the finest student of Sageford Academy and is famous for his many achievements as a water mage, and his opponent Kyle, a guard from the Rugrock Merchants Association, about whom no one has any real information. From Kyle's strange appearance, it is difficult for anyone to even tell whether he is a mage or a swordsman. As soon as the fight begins, Balaam suddenly freezes in place, unable to react, while Kyle slowly walks toward him without showing any hesitation. Using his sword, Kyle then drives a strike straight into Balaam's chest, shocking everyone watching the match and making it clear that this is the first fatality of the tournament. Seeing this, Seika thinks that people in this world are becoming too excited about these matches, and he reflects that even here, there are those who seem to enjoy watching others die. Next, it is Seika's turn to compete once again, and this time his opponent is a massive construct known as Puppeteer. The crowd is excited to watch him because of how easily he won his first match, and their interest grows even more since he is now facing what appears to be another mage. Before the battle begins, a woman who controls the giant construct steps forward and confidently declares that she specifically designed it for anti-magic combat, meaning Seika has no chance of defeating it. As the match starts, the giant construct slowly advances towards Seika, seemingly prepared to withstand any spell he might use. In response, Seika secretly summons one of his Ayakashi, which instantly destroys the construct in a single attack, causing the massive creation to collapse and fall apart before the audience can fully understand what happened. After eliminating the construct, Seika calmly walks toward the woman and advises her to surrender while she still has the opportunity. Hearing this and realizing she has no chance of winning, the woman quickly surrenders out of fear, allowing Seika to claim victory and leave the arena. On his way back, Yuki tells him that he came dangerously close to being exposed because summoners are not permitted to participate in the tournament. And if the officials had realized that he used an Ayakashi, he would have been immediately disqualified. When Seika reunites with the girls, Amyu informs him that Aoife had been so worried about his safety that she even said it would be better for him to forfeit rather than continue fighting. Amyu then asks whether he plans to join the Royal Guard if he wins the tournament, but Seika quickly rejects the idea, making it clear that he has no interest in taking that path. Aoife and Amyu both admit that they cannot even imagine Seika losing a match, and they encourage him to keep performing well and win every time he steps into the arena. Before long, it is finally Mabel's turn to compete after she easily advances through the first round of the tournament. Her opponent is Hao Lo, a highly talented earth mage known for his considerable skill and power. As the match begins, Hao Lo launches a barrage of rocks at Mabel, but she calmly cuts through every one of them with her weapons. Watching the battle, Seika realizes that Hao Lo has figured out that ordinary mid-rank magic is not going to be enough to defeat Mabel. Mabel then throws away her swords and decides to switch to a different weapon, prompting Hao Lo to respond with gravity magic that tears up a large section of the ground and lifts it into the air. While observing the fight, Amyu notices that Mabel keeps throwing her weapons with tremendous force, causing them to smash through solid surfaces with ease. Amyu comes to the conclusion that Mabel is activating her magic immediately after throwing the weapons, or perhaps just before they make contact with their targets. Eventually, Mabel closes the distance, draws her sword once more, and places it against Hao Lo's neck, leaving him no choice but to surrender the match. The commentator then refers to Mabel as the hero, which immediately surprises Seika and makes him ask the girls about it. Amyu explains that the second hero in history was also named Mabel, and that the current Mabel uses the same type of weapon as that legendary figure. Later that night, Seika discovers a demon spy in town sending a message through a carrier pigeon. When the spy notices him, he attempts to stab Seika, but Seika quickly uses his abilities to restrain him and take him hostage. Seika then demands to know what message was sent through the pigeon, but the spy refuses to answer. In response, Seika summons an Ayakashi capable of reading minds. Through the creature's power, it is revealed that the man is a spy sent by the demons to keep watch on Mabel, because they also believe that she might be the hero based on her abilities and attributes. After learning the truth, Seika orders the Ayakashi to devour the spy. Once the creature finishes, it unexpectedly tries to look into Seika's mind as well, which immediately angers him. At that moment, Seika finally understands what the Academy is trying to accomplish. He realizes that they want the false hero, Mabel, to win the tournament and attract as much attention as possible, allowing her to act as a decoy while keeping the demons focused on her instead of the real hero, Amu. Yuki then asks whether he is curious about Mabel's true identity or where she actually comes from. Seika replies that Mabel is almost certainly a fake name, but he still has no intention of investigating her background. As far as Seika is concerned, if Mabel's presence helps keep Amu safe from the demons, then he is perfectly content to leave things as they are. The following day, Kyle, the user of the Evil Eye, wins his second match just as effortlessly as his previous one, defeating another powerful fighter with ease. Shortly afterward, a young knight named Reinus enters the spotlight by winning his first match through the combined use of earth and wind magic, then securing victory in his second match with fire and water magic. Reinus quickly becomes one of the most talked about competitors in the tournament because of his impressive abilities, and his reputation grows even further when his opponent in the third round chooses to forfeit before their match even begins. Meanwhile, both Seika and Mabel continue advancing through the tournament bracket. At one point, Mabel approaches Seika directly and tells him that he should simply forfeit rather than face her. After that, one of the most anticipated matches of the tournament finally arrives, with Reinus facing Kyle. The crowd is especially excited because these are the two competitors everyone has been discussing throughout the event. As soon as the match begins, Reinus unleashes light magic and attempts to overwhelm Kyle with a direct attack, but the magic appears to have no effect on him at all. Reinus continues using a wide variety of magical techniques and combinations, yet Kyle manages to break through every single one of them. Just as Kyle is about to deliver what seems to be a fatal blow, the judges intervene and stop the fight, declaring Kyle the winner before Reinus can be killed. That night, Mabel tries to attack Seika in his room but fails to kill him, so she tries to escape. Seika eventually catches up to Mabel and immediately tells her that he did not come there to fight. As he watches her, he notices that she is not truly comfortable using the dagger she is carrying, since she is far more accustomed to fighting with heavier weapons. Instead of acting aggressively, Seika sits down and comments that he enjoys the nighttime view, especially when the moon is visible in the sky. Mabel, however, does not understand why he followed her if he has no intention of fighting and demands an explanation. Seika replies that he only came to talk, and he suggests that if she tells him what is troubling her, he might even change his mind about certain things. Mabel then reveals that her original plan was simply to injure him badly enough that he would be forced to forfeit the match scheduled for the next day. She also asks whether he would have been able to heal himself even if she had seriously wounded him. After that, Mabel directly tells him to withdraw from the tournament because she knows she cannot defeat him in a fair fight, and more importantly, she does not want to watch anyone else die. In response, Seika explains that she is taking Amu's place and that her role is to win the tournament and become a false hero who can attract the demon's attention away from the real one. Mabel then tells him that he has misunderstood the situation completely. According to her, her mission is not to become a fake hero who wins the tournament. Instead, her true purpose is to be killed by the swordsman with the evil eye, allowing the demons to believe that the hero has died and stopping them from searching for the real hero any further. Mabel explains that the Rugrock Merchants Association gathers slave children who show potential and trains them to become mercenaries. She then reveals that both she and Kyle were raised under that same system and that the association is now using the tournament to determine whether Kyle has become the perfect mercenary they wanted to create. Mabel further explains that the process involves opening a hole in a child's skull and implanting magic directly into their brain. Those who survive the procedure become obedient mercenaries capable of following any order without question. However, the cruelty of the training begins long before that. The children collected by the association are divided into groups of 4 at the training camp, where they encourage one another and promise to do their best together. In the end, though, only one child from each group is selected for the surgery. To prove their worth and complete the process, that child must kill the other 3 members of the group who had once been their friends. Mabel then reveals the truth behind her connection to Kyle. She is the last surviving member of his group and the final friend he is expected to kill. Because of that, she believes she must be the one to kill Kyle and finally get her revenge for everything that happened. Seika, however, tells her that she does not need to handle it alone. He confidently states that he is going to defeat Kyle in the finals himself. He also assures her that he is the strongest competitor left in the tournament and promises that he will help her deal with Kyle when the time comes. The next day, Seika and Mabel have their first match against each other and everyone is excited for them. The fight starts off with Mabel charging at Seika with everything she got, but Seika manages to dodge her moves and tries to counterattack. Seika uses his magical abilities to stop her weapon, and that makes it 1,000 times heavier. He then completely traps her using magical veins that are made of mercury and are a lot heavier. Seika then wins the match by the judges' votes, and now he is going to the finals to fight Kyle. After that, the final match begins, and Kyle is surprised that he is not going against his own sister Mabel. Seika tries to remind him that he wasn't like that before, as now he is working on someone else's orders. Seika then tells Kyle that when he will win this fight, he will have him apologize to Mabel. The fight begins with Seika using his powers to spread red smoke across the battlefield, covering the entire area and making it difficult for anyone to see what is happening. Taking advantage of the confusion, he summons the Ushioni Ayakashi, a monstrously powerful creature with overwhelming strength. The moment the monster appears, it strikes Kyle with a single devastating blow, sending him crashing violently into the ground. As the battle continues, Seika notices that Kyle is preparing to activate a spell seal, so he immediately reacts by trapping both of them inside a protective barrier before the technique can affect anyone else. Realizing that he is lost, Kyle asks Seika to seek Mabel's forgiveness on his behalf. However, before anything more can be said, a curse placed on him by the Merchants Association activates and kills him for failing his mission. Afterward, Seika tells the spectators that Kyle disappeared because he completely destroyed him without leaving behind any trace. In the end, the Emperor never appears at the tournament, and the committee officially awards Seika the victory medal for winning the competition. Despite his success, Seika declines the offer to join the Royal Guards. He also makes sure that Kyle receives a proper burial instead of being forgotten. Later, Seika meets with Mabel and passes along Kyle's final message, telling her that he was sorry about the four-leaf clover hairpin. Mabel then explains that before Kyle underwent the surgery that changed his life, he accidentally broke a four-leaf clover hairpin that she treasured deeply. The two of them argued over it at the time, and she never had the chance to properly make peace with him afterward. Mabel then starts tearing up, wondering what's going to happen to her, and Seika tells her that she will go back to school to study. After the tournament, Seika tells Amyu and Aoife about everything that happened, and now Amyu wants to fight Mabel again, saying these are not practice swords anymore, so if she loses, if her weapon breaks, or she drops it. The fight starts off with Amyu winning the match since Mabel's sword breaks. Amyu then tells Mabel that she knows that she was trying to prove she was better than her brother, and the reason she entered the tournament was that it was her last chance to do so. Once they get back, Seika tells the principal that he knew about the Mabel mission, and the principal congratulates him for winning the matches. Later at lunch, Amyu asks everyone if they are going back home, since summer break starts tomorrow. Seika tells her that he was told out of the blue to go investigate a dragon in the kingdom of Asteria. It turns out, Seika's uncle decided to send him there, and Aoife says that he must have thought he was too perfect for the job. Hearing that, Amyu gets excited and asks if she could come along with them, but Seika says that her parents must be waiting for her at home. Just then, the Crown Prince of Asteria, Cecilio, arrives at the academy because he wants to visit the Empire's Magic Academy while also taking the opportunity to meet Seika. As soon as Cecilio notices Aoife, he is immediately struck by her beauty and becomes fascinated by her appearance. He then proposes that she join the royal harem of his country and become one of his wives. However, Aoife explains that she is merely Seika's servant and belongs to his household. Hearing this, the prince turns to Seika and asks him to name a price for Aoife. Before Seika has a chance to respond, Cecilio's assistant quickly intervenes and suggests that they continue the discussion elsewhere since many people in the building have already begun staring at them. Later on, Cecilio tells Seika about the Dragon of Asteria, explaining that it has lived peacefully alongside the people of the kingdom for more than a century, but during the past year, its behavior has become increasingly unusual. Curious about this, Seika asks why the Asterian dragon has remained in harmony with the people for so long. In response, the prince reveals that the dragon was originally hatched from an egg by the Queen of Asteria herself, which is why it has maintained such a close relationship with the kingdom and its people until now. When the prince leaves, Amyu and Mabel take Seika to the side to confront him, asking if he is planning to give him Aoife. Seika explains that the decision is entirely Aoife's to make, and that she should be free to choose whether she wants to go with the prince or not. He also points out that if the prince never brought up the offer himself, Aoife might never have had the chance to express her own wishes. Later, Seika and Aoife leave the academy and travel together with the prince's carriage and its group of escorts. During the journey, Seika once again suffers from severe motion sickness, causing Aoife to become concerned about his condition. Aoife then tells him that the prince had previously invited her to ride in his personal carriage, but she declined the offer. Because of that, she now believes that he has likely given up on the idea of adding her to his harem. Hearing this, Seika starts to feel that something about the entire situation is definitely not right. 9 days later, the group finally arrives at Protoaster, the ancient capital of Asteria. As Seika and Yifa admire the beauty and grandeur of the city, the prince appears and explains that ever since the dragon began attacking things, the people have become fearful and uneasy. Seika is then surprised when he suddenly spots the dragon flying overhead, and moments later, it passes directly above them. One of the prince's mercenaries manages to drive the dragon away by using his special ability to summon a massive lava tiger. However, after the dragon leaves, the summoned beast suddenly loses control and becomes aggressive, turning its attack toward Yifa. Before the situation can escalate any further, Seika immediately steps in and uses his powers to restrain and stop the rampaging creature. At that moment, the mage who intervenes to subdue the tiger reveals himself to be Zekt, a man who had been personally hired by the prince. Seika then questions the prince about why he would choose to bring mercenaries into this situation, and the prince calmly replies that their purpose is to eliminate the dragon. Seika warns him that he should reconsider this plan, since in his opinion, the mercenaries are not yet strong enough to defeat such a massive dragon due to the huge difference in power and size. He then asks the prince whether the queen and the people of Asteria have even approved the dragon's death, since the dragon itself is considered a symbol of the nation. In response, the prince firmly tells Seika to stay out of the matter, insisting that it is a problem belonging to his country. After that, Seika turns to Yifa and begins scolding her loudly for freezing up earlier when the lava tiger attacked her instead of reacting. When the prince tries to interrupt and interfere, Seika also tells him to stay out of it, reminding him that Yifa is his servant and that how he handles the situation is his responsibility. Deep down, Seika feels guilty for being harsh on her, but he believes he has no choice, remembering how he once saw students being eaten alive by beings far stronger than them, which left him with a strict mindset about survival. The next day, they decided to take a look at the documents about the dragon at the library. According to the books, the dragon was born several centuries ago, and the legends say it was hatched from an egg by the queen, but it's not clear if it's true. Seika also discovers that the dragon had become violent once before, long ago, when he and his mate had a child together. However, this information does not explain the dragon's current behavior, since his mate passed away centuries earlier. That night, Yifa tells Seika that a maid has just delivered a message informing her that Prince Cecilio is requesting her presence. Seika immediately tells her that she does not have to go if she does not want to, and Yifa agrees. Since she is too frightened to sleep alone in her own room, Seika invites her to sleep in his room instead. Before they go to sleep, Yifa asks Seika whether she has been a burden to him and promises that she will continue doing everything she can to help him. In response, Seika reassures her that he genuinely cares about her, and after their conversation, the two of them finally fall asleep. The next morning, Yuki tells Seika that Yifa has been deeply in love with him ever since she was a little girl. Later, Seika and Prince Cecilio have another discussion about Yifa, with the prince once again expressing his desire to buy her. However, Seika firmly refuses the offer. During the conversation, Seika also informs the prince that he intends to climb the mountain that day so that he can personally meet the dragon and learn more about what is happening. Meanwhile, the prince's assistant warns Yifa that Seika is not a normal person and describes him as a monster. She explains that all of the elementals refuse to approach him, reacting to his presence in the same way they would avoid the miasma of a demon. Yifa responds that although Seika can be a little strange at times, she has lived with him in the same mansion for years and knows him well. Despite this, the assistant continues insisting that Yifa should distance herself from such a dangerous master. She then invites Yifa to take a tour of the harem and see the place for herself. At the same time, Seika reaches the top of the mountain by riding one of his Ayakashi monsters and finally comes face to face with the dragon. The dragon immediately attacks him with a powerful burst of fire, but Seika protects himself by using a shield. He then summons a monster of his own, which releases such a tremendous roar that the dragon is knocked to the ground. Afterward, Seika places a trap around the dragon, immobilizing it and keeping it frozen in one location. While examining the area, Seika notices a dragon egg nearby, causing Yuki to wonder if the dragon is actually female. Seika explains that the dragon was originally male but later changed into a female. He notes that many species can alter their gender in response to environmental conditions, and this dragon likely underwent that change sometime after losing its partner. After making this observation, Seika carefully adjusts the position of the egg, explaining that dragon eggs need to be rotated from time to time so that a different end points upward. Meanwhile, as the assistant continues guiding Aoife through the harem, she explains that Asteria's harem is much more than a place where the king's wives and mistresses spend their time competing in complicated political and personal rivalries against one another. It turns out this is like an academy with many instructors, and many of the girls here will be involved in the politics of this nation, so it's also a way to train female government officials. In addition to that, the assistant explains that the current queen of Asteria, the prince's mother, is a superlative ruler who is wise, decisive, and loved by the people. However, the prince is deeply worried that he may not live long enough to achieve any great accomplishments of his own, which is why he is so desperate to earn glory through the dragon situation as quickly as possible. Later, the prince's assistant brings Aoife before him, where he presents her with money and official documents that would grant her freedom. Aoife explains that he cannot make such a decision by himself because Seika's approval is also required. The prince confidently replies that Seika will approve it, and if he refuses, he will simply issue an order to conscript all slaves in Protoaster and force Seika to sell Aoife to him. Another man then suggests that they should make Aoife sign the documents regardless of whether she agrees to it or not. Before anyone can take further action, the dragon suddenly appears along with Seika. To everyone's shock, Seika announces that he has become friends with the dragon. He then calls out to Aoife and tells her to come with him. Without hesitation, Aoife runs straight towards Seika, and the two of them leave together as they head back toward the dragon's nest. Suddenly, the prince's magician uses his magic to summon a monster in an attempt to stop them. But Seika immediately counters the attack and uses his own powers to block it before it can reach them. It turns out Zekt is after that egg since he wants us to steal it and sell it somewhere for profit. Zekt tries to attack Seika again, but Aoife uses her abilities to throw it away. Aoife and Seika continue to destroy the monster completely that surprises Zekt. When Zekt attempts to launch another attack, the dragon suddenly steps in and protects Seika, terrifying everyone present. The soldiers and mercenaries immediately try to flee, only to find themselves trapped by Seika's magic before they can escape. At the same time, Aoife destroys the source of Zekt's power by burning the book he had been using. Later, Seika brings the captured magician before the prince and explains everything, revealing how Zekt and the others had been plotting to betray him. After the magician is taken away and thrown into prison, Seika explains the truth behind the dragon's strange behavior. He tells the prince that the dragon had become aggressive because it had laid an egg and was trying to protect it. He further explains that the reason the dragon accepted him was because he helped care for the egg. According to Seika, the dragon views humans as its parents, and the same would be true for its future child as well. Because of this, Seika advises the prince to help the dragon hatch its egg so that the dragon and the people of Protoaster can become a family once again, just as they were in the past. However, the prince fails to understand Seika's reasoning and instead asks him to kill the dragon, insisting that he must accomplish something great or he will never be chosen as the next king. Seika immediately refuses the request without hesitation. In response, the prince decides to have Seika arrested, accusing him of using magic to make the Asterian dragon behave erratically and treating him as a suspect in the entire incident. To everyone's surprise, the prince decides not to have Aoife arrested and instead announces that she is free to live as an ordinary citizen within his kingdom. Hearing this, Seika becomes furious and scolds the prince, accusing him of wasting time playing around instead of properly focusing on his responsibilities. Aoife also rejects the prince's offer, explaining that even if she were completely free, she still would not have any interest in joining his harem. The prince's assistant then apologizes to both Seika and Aoife for all the trouble that has been caused and urges the prince to stop his behavior. Later, the assistant speaks with Aoife privately and tells her that it is obvious how deeply she cares for and loves Seika. During their conversation, the assistant gives Aoife several elemental spirits that possess the power to heal almost any injury or illness. It is also revealed that Aoife is descended from the elves, which is the reason she has the ability to use elemental magic. On their journey back, Seika admits that he is glad Aoife turned down what he considers to be a foolish prince. He then asks her what kind of person she would want to marry in the future. Aoife explains that she would like someone who is not only intelligent but also kind, compassionate, and capable of caring about the well-being of others. The next day, Seika tells Amyu that he wants her to meet his family, and she wonders if this is some kind of marriage proposal. Seika explains that his family asked him to come home for spring break, and his father wants to meet this swordsman who can use all magical elements. Mabel also decides to go since Seika's uncle would love to meet her since he knows her father. Yuki then asks Seika if he really doesn't want to go home that badly, and he says that he doesn't, since there's somebody really important at the mansion right now. He also tells her that if he stands out too much, he will meet his end the same way he did in his last life. Later, Seika returns home along with the girls and meets his brother Luft, who looks different than he remembers. Seika's other brother, Glai, suddenly appears holding swords and says that he has been waiting for this day for a long time, clearly showing that he is enjoying his life in the military. He then explains that he prefers the thrill of casting magic spells and swinging a sword until he feels like vomiting rather than sitting behind a desk doing paperwork. Amyu then asks Aoife if Glai is the same brother who used to bully them, and she immediately challenges him, telling him to fight her instead of Seika. The battle begins with Amyu rushing forward and attacking with her swords, managing to pressure Glai and even push him back for a moment. However, Glai eventually overpowers her by knocking her sword out of her hands and winning the fight. At that moment, the princess arrives, and it is revealed that her name is Princess Fiona. Everyone is shocked upon hearing this because she is known as the Holy Princess. Inside, Yuki asks Seika what the title of Holy Princess actually means, and Seika explains that it is not an official rank, but rather a name given to her because of her unique birth. 15 years ago, a priestess at a temple in the capital gave birth to a child whose father was the emperor, and that child became the Holy Princess, carrying the bloodline of both the sacred priestess and the royal family. When they sit down, the princess tells Amyu that she had wanted to meet her personally, because not only is she capable of using all 4 elements, but she also has incredible skill with the sword. The princess then turns to Seika and says that she would love to make him her holy knight, although she admits that such a thing is not possible. She then asks if he would be willing to accompany her on her journey back to the capital. With no real alternative, Seika agrees to assist her, after which the princess leaves the room, leaving the remaining group confused by her sudden behavior. During dinner, the princess mentions that she would love to fly through the sky, and Seika suggests that she try one of the large birds that live in the southern forests. He then explains details about their recent journey, saying that Aoife and he went to Asteria last summer to investigate a dragon, and through that experience, they became close enough to eventually ride on its back. Seika then tells Glai that he should arrange for Mabel to fight him the next day. In a flashback, Seika's uncle has a conversation with Aoife's father, asking if he is still angry about sending Aoife to the academy. Aoife's father, however, is furious, complaining that she has been turned into the servant of someone he considers a loser like Seika, and expressing how uncomfortable he finds him. Back in the present, Seika's uncle informs him that his report has become a major topic of discussion among certain academics, which makes him quietly happy. Seika's aunt also tries to speak with him and urges him to visit more often, which surprises Seika since she had ignored him for most of his life until now. That night, Amyu secretly sneaks into Seika's room and asks him what he plans to do after he moves up from the lower grades. Seika replies that he is not sure yet, and then asks her about her own plans. Amyu explains that she intends to return home and continue her life as an adventurer. Seika then says that he also wants to become an adventurer and asks if she will teach him when they graduate. Amyu becomes excited and immediately asks him to promise that they will go adventuring together, and Seika agrees to the promise. The next day, the group goes out to explore the city, accompanied by the princess, who has left all her guards behind because she says she cannot enjoy herself when they are around. During the outing, the princess suddenly holds Seika's hand, making it look like the two of them are dating, which causes Amyu to feel jealous. The princess then sees a girl having fun with her lover and feels bad about it since she never got the chance to do that. Seika and Amyu tell her some romance stories to lift her mood. After that, they start walking and Seika takes his hand away from her, which annoys her, and she tells him to stay close to her because there's no telling what might happen next. The princess then walks in the construction site where something falls over, but Amyu and the other guy use their powers to save her. Just then, the crowd starts gathering and Glai says that they need to leave this area. Seika then buys a thing for the princess and helps her wear it in her hair. However, the princess gets excited to receive the present since she hasn't received anything before. The following morning, the princess begins searching for Seika as soon as the day starts, causing Yuki to remark that she seems to have become quite fond of him. Yuki then takes the opportunity to ask Seika about the princess's ability to see the future and wonders whether he could achieve the same result through his fortune-telling magic. Seika explains that fortune-telling and true future sights are completely different abilities. According to him, a fortune teller must rely on special tools, gathered information, and complex methods to make predictions, and even then, there is a limit to how much they can learn. In contrast, the princess's power allows her to directly perceive future events in a way that ordinary fortune-telling cannot. Later, Seika approaches Amyu and asks why she still cannot defeat Glai despite possessing considerable talent and, more importantly, being the hero. During their conversation, Seika admits that he is actually hiding from the princess because she appears to have taken a strong interest in him. Amyu tells him that he should spend some time with her instead, since they will all be leaving the next day, and she mentions that the princess has been sitting alone playing chess. Eventually, Seika decides to visit the princess and joins her for a game. Before the match begins, the princess proposes a wager, declaring that whoever loses must obey one request from the winner, no matter what it may be. As the chess game gets underway, the princess opens the conversation by asking Seika a question about what he believes is the strongest chess piece in the world. Seika responds that the strongest pieces on the board are both of the kings, since they ultimately control not only their armies but also the soldiers who fight for them. The princess acknowledges that his answer is correct, but she reveals that she sees things differently. In her view, the strongest pieces are actually those outside the board itself, because everything happening on the table is ultimately influenced by forces beyond it. As their game continues, the princess confidently states that she is going to win. Seika immediately realizes that she already knows the outcome because she used her ability to see the future. He then explains that he had already figured out the truth about her power even before Glai mentioned anything about it. The princess admits that she is relieved to hear that because she had been struggling to figure out how she would explain it to him herself. She goes on to tell Seika that when she first awakened this ability, she believed she had finally discovered the reason she had been born. Seika assumes that she intended to use her power to improve the empire and guide it toward a better future, but the princess disagrees. She explains that even if someone can see the future, that future is not fixed and can still change. Through that realization, she came to understand that heaven does not assign a predetermined meaning to people's lives. Because of that, she decided that instead of remaining trapped by expectations and destiny, she would choose for herself how she wanted to live and what path she wished to follow. After that, the princess shares a story about how she used to hate stew when she was a child, but now she loves it. She explains that she was especially scared of eating it in winter, in rooms with a fireplace, because the princess knew that stew and bread both had flour in them. The princess believed that if she slept in the same room as fire, if she ate stew, then the stew would turn into bread and swell up inside her body. Hearing her explanation, Seika bursts into laughter, finding her conclusion so ordinary that he considers it one of the most unimpressive things he has heard in quite some time. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the world, a group of demons wipes out a bandit gang and proceeds to devour them. It is then revealed that these demons are none other than Zor the Devil God, Mudarev the strongest ogre, Loni the monster tamer, and Pirisralia, who is known as the evil Fiona. Back at the mansion, Seika and the princess finish their preparations to leave, while Luft comes to bid farewell to the group before their departure. As they travel, Seika begins feeling miserable due to his severe motion sickness. Seeing this, Glai is shocked, as he never imagined that there was anything in the world capable of making Seika feel unwell. Seika then asks Glai whether it is really safe for him to be traveling with them when he is supposed to be the captain of the soldiers. Glai explains that his highest priority is remaining at the princess's side and ensuring her safety at all times. Suddenly, their journey is interrupted when a group of assassins disguised as ordinary bandits launches an attack. The attackers begin firing arrows at the princess's carriage in an attempt to kill her, but Seika repeatedly uses his powers to intercept and block every incoming shot before it can reach its target. Eventually, the assassins are captured alive, and the princess says that she had foreseen the attack and will use the assassins' confessions against her political enemies. Amu and the other girls also showed up on time, since they were worried about Seika and the princess. Later, they finally arrive at their destination, and it's time for the princess to leave Seika and the others. The princess then tells Seika that she is always on his side and he shouldn't forget that no matter what happens. At the same time, the demons are also running through the forest to defeat the hero. The next day, the principal asks Seika to represent the current student body during the academy's welcome ceremony for the incoming students. Yuki immediately becomes worried, believing that accepting such an important role will make Seika stand out far more than he already does. However, Seika sees nothing unusual about it and considers the request perfectly normal. He then tells Yuki that he genuinely likes the academy and is also looking forward to his future life as an adventurer. Seika goes on to explain that from now on, he intends to live like an ordinary person instead of constantly worrying about attracting attention or standing out from everyone else. Meanwhile, the demons finally arrive at the academy gates and begin carrying out their mission. Their plan is to force the students toward the central building by attacking from all 4 directions before continuing their massacre there. The demon captain is confident that the operation will succeed and believes that their entire team will complete the mission and return home safely. After infiltrating the academy grounds and getting past the walls, one of the demons notices a strange red fog spread throughout the area. At the same time, Loni and Pirisralia are also moving through the academy. During their advance, Pirisralia comments that Loni has become someone the group can reliably depend on lately. Her unexpected praise catches him off guard, causing Loni to wonder what has gotten into her, since she is not the type of person who normally compliments others. The female demon responds by explaining that she was simply thinking about how much stronger he has become over time. Hearing that, Loney admits that he once believed nobody could surpass him because he had been the best monster tamer in his village. However, that confidence changed after he met both the captain and Mudarev, whose abilities were on an entirely different level. Loney then remarks that he knows she was also considered the strongest person in her own village. The female demon replies that such power has little value during peaceful times, and because she rarely has a reason to use it, she spends most of her time sleeping. Suddenly, Loney sends several demonic wolves into the surrounding fog to scout the area. However, the wolves quickly return looking terrified, behaving as though they had encountered something even more frightening than demons themselves. Meanwhile, Mabel confronts Mudarev and asks where he came from, explaining that she had never seen anyone like him within the Merchants Association. Without wasting any time, Mabel launches an attack and focuses on defending herself while searching for an opportunity to counter his overwhelming strength. Using her abilities, she successfully restrains Mudarev for a brief moment by tying him down. However, to her shock, he shatters the restraints almost instantly, demonstrating a level of raw power far beyond what she had expected. Mudarev then tries to attack Mabel with full power, but she disappears, leaving behind a talisman. Eventually, all the demons run into each other, and their captain says that he tried to slay someone but felt nothing as the blade passed through. Instead, he found some talismans on the ground like the rest of them. Suddenly, Seika shows up and starts singing a poem by a swordsman who battled Ayakashi. Seika also reveals that every person here is one of his Shikigami, except for Mabel, who fought Mudarev. Before Mudarev could speak, Seika sliced off his head in a single go using a spell that shocked everyone. Pirisralia then loses her calm and uses her best attack on Seika, but it just fails as he uses his spell to stop her heart, and she dies as well. Seika then summons an evil eye snake that has even more powerful evil eye than the demons, and Seika explains that this is the white snake, an Ayakashi that was originally an aged viper. However, Loney approaches the snake thinking that he can easily be its friend since he has always been good at making friends. However, the white snake eats Loney alive, and Seika says that what he was trying to do wouldn't work on an Ayakashi born of human hate. At that moment, the demon's captain is stunned, thinking nothing about Seika is normal, and he knew from the start that challenging him was a mistake. He then tells one of his teammates to run as fast as he can so that he could survive and tell their fellows about the situation. After that, Seika and the demon captain unleash their powers at the same time and attack each other, but in the end, only the demon captain is killed in the clash. The last remaining demon tries desperately to escape into the forest, running as far as he can, but he eventually succumbs to his severe injuries and dies as well. Meanwhile, Mabel rushes towards Seika in a panic, telling him that she needs to capture the remaining demon or else it might go on to harm innocent people. Seika calmly tells her to relax and explains that the demon was never targeting her in the first place, but was actually after the hero, and that he has already dealt with the situation, so there is nothing left to worry about. That night, Seika enjoys dinner together with the rest of the group during the new student welcome ceremony. While eating, Seika reflects that Amyu has no idea that those demons were specifically targeting her, or that a similar situation had already occurred earlier that day. Suddenly, the Dirac Knights of Marquis Greville arrive and declare that Amyu is under arrest for committing a serious crime, accusing her of killing a demon emissary who had visited the academy that day. After that, the guards grab Amyu, which makes both Mabel and Yifa extremely angry. However, Seika stops them and tells them not to act, saying that Amyu is innocent and that she will be released soon anyway. The guards become furious at Seika for speaking so confidently and try to attack him, but they are stopped by their captain, who reminds them that the sons and daughters of nobles are studying at this academy, and that they must not cause a scene. After the knights take Amyu away, Seika goes to the principal to discuss what is happening. The principal initially assumes that Seika has come to blame her for allowing one of her students to be arrested. However, Seika instead says that the Empire is clearly trying to find an excuse to execute Amyu, and he wants to know the real reason behind it. The principal tells him to wait for good news, explaining that she is already trying to apply pressure on the authorities to handle the situation. That night, Seika summons Mizuchi, the dragon, and attempts to control it. Yuki appears and tells Seika that if he wants to act intelligently in this world, he should abandon the idea of saving Amyu. Seika asks her why she would say that, and Yuki explains that he is preparing to unleash his power on the most important figures in the nation, and if he draws too much attention, it could end the same way as it did in his previous life. However, Seika says that there is only one hero, and if anybody sees his power, he will just make sure they don't live to tell about it. In a furious state, Seika rides on top of the dragon and quickly moves toward the western side of the area. Meanwhile, Amyu is imprisoned inside a cell, where she sadly thinks about how she may never be able to go on adventures with Seika again, and she realizes that he is the person she misses the most. After that, Seika manages to locate Amyu's position by using a group of mouse-type Ayakashi to track her down. When he arrives at the castle, the knights immediately try to attack him, but none of their attacks are effective because Seika uses both fire and water magic to destroy and cancel them out. He then summons one of his Ayakashi, which cuts down the knights in a single sweeping strike, while Seika himself deals with the remaining enemies. After some time, Seika finally reaches the cell where Amyu is being held. Amyu tells him to return to the academy because she believes she will be able to escape on her own soon. However, Seika explains to her that she is actually the hero, someone who reincarnates once every few centuries at the same time as the Demon King. He also reveals that she is likely going to be killed because people who do not have power often fear and eliminate those who do. Surprisingly, Glai appears along with the princess, who had already seen everything that happened beforehand. Seika then demands an explanation, warning them that if they do not clarify the situation, he will send a group of weak soldiers waiting outside to deal with them. The princess begins explaining that this land was once a small nation, and in the past, they conscripted their people to fight in wars against the demons. Eventually, a hero appeared, and it was a great relief for everyone as this hero fought against terrible demons while wielding a holy sword. The princess also states that both the Demon King and the hero are relics of the past, and that nowadays a single hero is no longer enough to conquer even a city. However, Seika responds that if Amyu is useless to them, they should simply ignore her. But the princess counters that the hero represents a danger just by existing, as she has the potential to start a war simply through her presence. The princess then tells Seika to leave immediately, saying that she will use all of her power to ensure that he returns home safely. At that moment, Seika realizes that this entire situation was carefully planned by the princess from the beginning, and that she never actually intended for Amyu to be killed at all. The princess then brings them to a carriage that is fully stocked with money, supplies, and Amyu's sword. Before leaving, Amyu tells Seika that while she was in the cell, both the princess and Glai visited her to encourage her and said she would be released soon. Seika then apologizes to the princess, saying that although he understood it was only a game, he still failed to keep their promise. In order to make up for it, Seika uses his powers to restore everything back to its original state, even bringing back to life all the knights he had previously killed. The princess becomes angry with Seika for doing this, saying that she had been planning to report that a powerful demon was responsible for the attack. Later, Amyu tells Seika that she still does not understand what he and the princess were talking about regarding her supposed death. Seika tells her not to worry about it anymore, as they are now beginning a new journey together. Meanwhile, the princess is seen speaking with a shadowy being, who reveals that he knows Seika is the Demon King and declares that he will give his life to protect the hero. How long do you think it will take for Seika to finally protect Amyu from the demons and help her fulfill her destiny as the hero? Comment Demon King if you'd like more videos like this. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more anime recaps.